Hello, this is Mark Silverman, managing member and founder of Silverman & Associates, and I'm also a certified financial planner professional. I want to welcome you to the Saving with Silverman podcast. I'm glad you're here. Each week, we'll discuss different financial planning topics because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
Welcome to Saving with Silverman, the show with Mark Silverman, the founder and managing member of Silverman & Associates in Tucson. Thanks for being with us today. And before we get started, let me tell you how you can get in touch with Mark Silverman's office, 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601. If you're more comfortable sending a text to that number, certainly do that, or you can call 520-333-7601. Mark, good to be back with you today and hope you've had a great week. I'm looking forward to the show.
Ron, I'm always happy to be here. It's been so far so good. This is the time of the year. The weather's great. Holidays are coming up and excited to spend an hour or so with you today.
Well, always good to spend an hour with you. And let's talk about lies you learn in broker school.
Okay.
Probably nobody's ever asked you that question before. A lot of financial professionals say things that just aren't true. Not talking about Mark Silverman here, but talking about some other folks out there who might not have your best interests at heart. It's not that they're intentionally trying to mislead. It's just that they've been trained to use certain talking points, which they might even believe to be true themselves. You know how it is. You say something enough times, you start to believe it yourself. Let's talk about these statements and why you should be cautious if you hear any of these from a financial advisor. Number one on the list here, Mark, we have experts who can accurately predict market movement. Why should you shy away if you hear somebody tell you that?
Sure, Ron. In full disclosure, I started in this business right out of college, and I worked for a brokerage firm here in Tucson. With that being said, I did attend sort of what we would call brokerage school, if you will, like you termed it, where we were taught to, sell investment and insurance products. That's pretty much what it is more selling rather than, unfortunately, advising, which, we call ourselves financial advisors. But for most of us, they're more selling than there is advising. So, there are still people out there. I get approached by lots of different money managers. I am an independent firm, so I work with a lot of these investment firms. I can work with anybody that I choose to, quite frankly. And anytime somebody comes to me or approaches me where they think that they can consistently outperform the market, I do the same thing as you should do, which is to run the other way. Nobody can accurately predict and outperform an index on a consistent basis. Yeah, there might be a year or two where they might be able to, but if they're going and looking at back data where they can try to say that they would have done this and what it should have done this, you can't predict what's going to happen in the future. It's easy to say what you should have done looking backwards. But anybody that can say that they can outperform the market, you need to get away from that situation.
Okay, well, what if somebody says to you, just look at our past investment returns, and you can see that we have a system that works in all markets.
Like I said, we're in the second longest bull market we've ever been in, Ron. So with that being said, we are due for something. I don't know if it's, it's probably not going to be this year because we're almost to the end, but it could be next year or the year after. And, with that being said, I think it's important to understand that I can guarantee you that we're one day closer each and every day because we're due for something. So it's just being prepared and understanding that. And anybody that just bases everything on past performance, we've all heard the saying, past performance doesn't indicate future results. And that's the truth. So what it's done in the past is great to look at, but that doesn't mean anything going forward. So you need to understand that as well.
All right. Let me tell you the number you can call to get in touch with Mark Silverman, 520-333-7601, 520-333-7601. If you'd rather send a text, do that rather than call. It doesn't matter. 520-333-7601. Just leave your contact information. A member of Mark's team will get back with you, and he's not going to put you off on anybody else either. You can come in and sit down face-to-face and have a conversation with Mark Silverman himself. Back to the subject at hand here, lies you learn in broker school, or some folks may have learned in broker school. How about someone who advises a person and says your tax rate will be much lower in retirement? Is that statement fraught with danger right there?
That's something I was taught when we were, this is early 90s when I first got in on the brokerage I read out of college. We were told, you put money into whether it be an IRA or 401k, it's tax deductible, it's going to grow tax deferred. And then when you go take the money out, you're going to be in a lower tax bracket. Truth be told, what we've actually seen is people not necessarily are in lower tax brackets. And a couple of the reasons why is, the kids are grown, so you don't have those deductions. You might not have a mortgage anymore. so you don't have that deduction. So you just don't have all the deductions you used to have. And if you have a pension, you throw that in, Social Security, all these sorts of things can be taxable. You might, and you have investment income or real estate, whatever it might be, you might end up in a higher tax bracket with not a lot of deductions. So it's not necessarily the case that you're going to be in a lower tax bracket in retirement. Although, over 20 years ago, we were telling people that that's typically what's going to happen. And in reality, unfortunately, that's not the case.
Now, if you're meeting with a broker or an advisor and that person says to you, it's just a paper loss, hang in there. You're going to be fine. What's wrong with that?
That's something we were told to tell people too, especially, if we look at 2008, 2001, 2002, there's been a lot of downturns where, you're trying to do the best job you can for clients. And if you have them overexposed and they're taking losses they can't handle, those are the kind of statements that your typical broker are going to say. What we try to do is really focus on the plan and making sure we're taking the right amount of risk at all times and not trying to predict the market or time the market like we discussed earlier, but really focus on what's your comfort level of how much risk you're willing to take, and not really trying to time the market, but also looking at your goals and objectives and making sure those are in alignment, and really focus on the goals rather than on the day-to-day movements of the market.
Mark, I know that there are people listening to the show out there right now who have heard all these lines, and others as well, from brokers out there or someone they went in to talk to about their finances. And what do you have to offer those folks who may go ahead and make that phone call to your office?
Well, Ron, whether you're a first-time listener to the show or you've heard me for a long time, if anything I've said makes sense or resonates with you, this is now your opportunity to come in and have a conversation with me. Like Ron said, you meet with me. I don't pawn you off on somebody else. Here in my office to go through this process, and we call it the financial physical. And I can assure you, I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. I repeat, this is not a sales meeting. Very different from a lot of the other offers on the radio here in Tucson. Rather, we're going to discuss your values and goals in a way, honestly, you probably never have. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. However, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting. So whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who's actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interests at all times. And I can tell you, if you're working with somebody at a bank, a brokerage firm, an insurance salesperson, they do not have a fiduciary responsibility on all of your money. As part of the financial physical, we will discuss your cash reserves, debt if you have any, insurance, all types, and how to best allocate your assets. And we'll even benchmark where you are now financially compared to where you want to be, so you have an even better perspective of what's required to achieve your goals for the reasons that are important to you. This will become the foundation for developing a plan that gives you the highest probability of making that happen. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, it is best suited for people who have saved at least $250,000. And as you probably are aware, I am a certified financial planner professional, and I believe the only local one here on the radio in Tucson. And the going hourly rate to meet with a CFP such as myself can cost as much as $300 per hour. So this is a tremendous value and chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. We try our best to help everyone. However, our slots do fill up quickly. So I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting to the next 5 people that contact us right now. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
And it's certainly a smart choice to go ahead and make this phone call right now, or send a text, 520-333-7601, 520-333-7601. Mark Silverman's planning process is called the Financial Physical, 520-333-7601. No obligation, no cost. Call that number or shoot a text in that direction, and you can make it happen. You can come in and have a conversation with Mark Silverman, certified financial planner professional, the founder and the managing member of Silverman and Associates in Tucson. Wherever you are in southern Arizona, go ahead and avail yourself of the opportunity right now. I'm Ron Stutz along with Mark Silverman. There's more coming up on today's edition of Saving with Silverman.
When you reflect on your life, what would you like to see as your fondest memories? Summers at your favorite vacation spot? Ice cream with the grandkids after their first T-ball game? Maybe it was your great adventure across the world or volunteering with a local nonprofit. Of course, those memories are still in the future, although they're not as far away as you might think. Be sure you have a financial plan to make them happen. Don't find yourself worrying while enjoying that ice cream. Peace of mind is attainable in your retirement. With the proper planning, you can secure a meaningful retirement. At Silverman & Associates, we can help you make those dreams a reality. Schedule your visit with our team today. Call or text 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601. We want to make memories with you. Get started by calling or texting 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601.
Extra, read all about it.
Welcome back to Saving with Silverman. Ron Stutz along with Mark Silverman, your certified financial planner, professional, founder, and managing member of Silverman & Associates in Tucson. Wherever you are in southern Arizona, certainly Mark Silverman can help you with your financial planning. 520-333-7601 is your number to call, or you can send a text to that number if you like. You'd rather text than call. 520-333-7601. It is time now for In the News. There's been a lot of talk recently about how to pay for the tax cuts that the Trump administration wants. One proposal was lowering the amount that people are allowed to contribute to their 401ks. Why would this help? And how do you think do you think it's a good idea, Mark?
Well, I think it's a horrible idea. I mean, people need to be responsible and accountable for themselves. Too many people, in fact, I just met with a couple recently who had unfortunately been told that Social Security was going to cover most of their retirement expenses, which in fact, most people realize that that's not the case. If you're relying on Social Security more than, say, 25 to 30% of your overall retirement income plan, you're not going to have a very good retirement, as these people could attest to. So I think it's a horrible idea. So with that being said, you've got to put money away for yourselves. And one of the best ways is through a company employer retirement plan, like a 401k, 403b, TSP, 457, any of those sorts of plans where you can put a lot of money into them. And then if you're over 50, you can even put more money into them. But so reducing the amount that somebody could put in would reduce the amount of taxes that the government would receive, because it's pre-tax. The money that goes in is not taxed until that money comes out. So yes, it would bring in some more tax revenue, which of course we do need. But I think this is a horrible way, because we should be encouraging people to put money away for themselves rather than relying more on the government, which I think we know is a bad idea.
Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see how all this plays out with, what the administration wants, what the administration gets, and what happens with these tax cuts. But certainly we'll be talking about that in the future. That is our In the News segment today on today's edition of Saving with Silverman. I'm Ron Stutz. Once again, Mark Silverman can be reached at 520-333-7601. You can call or text that number, 520-333-7601, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life. That's why we do this show, Saving with Silverman. There's more coming up after this timeout.
Life is complicated. It's full of twists and turns and complex issues. The last things you need when planning your financial future are confusing numbers and advisors who just offer you a sales pitch. We believe there's a simpler way to invest. Your financial plan should be built on a plan that's made just for you. It's all about discovering your goals and designing a strategy that will help you get where you want to go. And don't worry, we'll track your progress along the way. Stop wandering your way through your investing life. Come in for a visit today. To schedule a visit, call or text 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601.
You finished school and worked hard to get your first job. You told yourself you'd save for retirement, but that old jalopy you bought when you were 16 broke down, so you bought a new one. You started to save, and soon you bought your first home. Then came pets, kids, and your world changed some more. You worked hard to provide for your family. You made sure your kids got a good education. You might be sending them to school right now, or maybe it's the grandkids' turn. And of course, you're now making sure your parents are looked after. Through the years you lovingly sacrificed for your family, now it's time to take care of you. Love others well by taking care of yourself. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman to discover how to build a financial plan that'll continue providing for you and the ones you love for years to come.
Welcome back to Saving with Silverman. Ron Stutz here along with Mark Silverman. And Mark, of course, on the radio every week. He is your certified financial planner professional, unlike anyone else on the radio here in Tucson, the founder and the managing member of Silverman and Associates. Wherever you are in the southern Arizona area, then go ahead and get in touch. Come in, have a conversation about your situation. And it's so important to do that because we're all different. There is no one-size-fits-all when it comes to financial planning. 520-333-7601. That is 520-333-7601. Call that number, or you can send a text, 520-333-7601. Mark, sometimes decision-making when it comes to your money can be very emotional depending on the situation. Most people like to think that they always make decisions based on logic and facts, but the truth is that emotions usually play a role for all of us in the decision-making process. What types of emotions do you find are likely to drive important financial decisions?
Ron, that's a good one. I just actually read an article over the weekend, this past weekend, about investor behavior is like 93% of what advisors deal with is dealing. We're all emotional creatures, myself included.
Sure.
And so it's hard not to get emotions involved. But unfortunately, a lot of people make, rash, harsh decisions based on emotions. And unfortunately, sometimes it's to their own detriment. So that's why it's so important to working with an advisor that's going to be there to give you the right advice that's in your best interest, that can kind of walk you off the ledge, if you will. But, there's lots of different emotions. People are scared. Some people are sitting too much in cash because they're afraid. We are at all-time highs right now, and we've been this way, and it keeps going up and up. So who knows when the bottom's going to fall out? Nobody knows. So it's important that you understand the risk that you're taking, and you can understand what your downside is. And that's why it's important to work with someone who could actually back test that for you and show you where you stand versus where you want to be. How are you on track with your goals? Are you on track? Are you not on track? Those sorts of things. But, dealing with emotions is probably the number one thing that we do as far as helping people and really understanding and talking to them and being logical and explaining to them the pros and cons of the investments that they have.
And some people may be dealing with a very emotional situation in their lives as well, such as a divorce or the death of a spouse and that sort of thing. Never good to make a decision very quickly when you're going through the worst of that situation. What are some of the mistakes that you've seen people make because of emotional decision making?
There's been lots of them. Sometimes people get out of the market too soon. I've seen people that have been sitting too long in cash. I just had somebody recently who's been sitting in cash since 2008. The market went down, they got out, and they've been sitting in cash ever since. Now they're scared to get back in. Well, they're losing to inflation. I don't care what age you are, you need to keep pace with inflation. And so, those are some of the decisions we've seen people make, or they jump and buy a product that they're sold. Somebody tried to sell them something and it sounded too good to be true. I.e., whether it be, some type of special annuity that's got some special guarantees that they don't truly understand, or a fund or a real estate investment trust that just sounds too good to be true. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So you've got to make sure that you understand what you're getting into and understand that there's no silver bullet in what we're doing. But you need to have somebody that's going to take the time to understand what you're trying to accomplish and put the time and the work in to come up with a plan that's going to work for you.
Gosh, I think about people who've been sitting in cash since 2008. They've really missed out a lot, haven't they?
Mm-hmm. It's the second longest bull market we've ever been in.
Yeah. 520-333-7601 is your number to call or text to get in touch with Mark Silverman, 520-333-7601. We'll give you that number again in just a few minutes here. But we're talking about emotional decision-making on today's edition of Saving with Silverman. Mark, are there times when it's appropriate to factor in emotions into your financial decisions?
Well, there's always emotions, but we really have to get to the heart of the emotion. If somebody's really in fear of losing money, we need to figure out what's that downside that they're talking about. Or they can't handle any type of loss? Can they handle a 5% loss, a 10% loss? And we talk percentage, we break it down into dollar figures because some people don't relate the two. When they say, they have $1 million and they can handle a 10% loss, we say, so you could handle $100,000, seeing your account down to $900,000. Oh, no, I can't see that. Well, that's the same thing, but that's why we like to show numbers. There's been studies that have been done where people have two different opinions when they see percentages versus dollar figures, when in fact they're one and the same. So it's important to understand that, and we do need to understand that, but we want to make sure that we're taking the appropriate amount of risk that you're comfortable taking that's going to keep you on track for your goals. And if somebody's not really looking at your goals, which most people aren't, because they're, again, just there to sell you products, then you really don't know. And you don't even know if those products are going to help you achieve your goals. But if we look at the overall plan, we can tell you with certainty whether or not you're going to be on track. And if you're not on track, what can we do to get you on track? And risk is part of that. So we need to understand what your comfort level is, and you need to understand what your downside is, exposure is, given a certain investment.
You're listening to the wisdom of Mark Silverman here on today's edition of Saving with Silverman, and we're talking about emotional decision making. Mark, if you would, take a moment and give us an example of a time when you've helped someone construct a solid plan that worked for them mathematically, but also met their emotional needs.
Sure. And we do plans for everybody. But with that being said, some people are on track, some people aren't on track, and we have to make those adjustments in order to get them on track. Sometimes it requires saving more or working longer or living on less. And those are decisions or trade-offs that you have to come upon. And we have those discussions with you. But I'll say we're working on a plan right now for a couple, and they're actually on track. They've done a great job saving. And we're able to actually show them they've been taking a fair amount of risk, and we're able to show them that they're actually more successful taking a little bit less risk with their portfolio, i.e. more bonds in the portfolio than stocks than they have now. And they're actually going to be more financially successful, as well as it's going to be more consistent, the return. So, not if, but when we have a correction, they're not going to lose as much as they would if they stayed what they're doing now with their current broker. So, and those are the type of situations that we love, where you're able to achieve their goals and we can actually show them we can take some risk off the table, and it actually puts them in a better position. So those are the conversations that we have, but I'm not saying that everybody we work with is able to achieve what they're looking to achieve, but you certainly knowing that ahead of time, you can make some better decisions versus people who never finally know or get to a point where they realize that, hey, we're going to run out of money. What do we do now? And if you've already been retired, those are some tough decisions you have to make of how you're going to fund your lifestyle and fund your life.
Mark, there are some people listening to the show out there today who maybe they're in some kind of an emotional situation, maybe not, but they've been listening to the show for a long time and finally getting around to the decision to go ahead and give you a call and come in and visit with you. What do you have to offer those folks when they come through your door?
Sure, Ron. A lot of people like to put their head in the sand and procrastinate. That's probably the number one thing we deal with, is people procrastinating. And, again, some people procrastinate for a long time. Some people say that enough's enough and they're ready to do something about it. So this is the first step. So just like you get a second opinion on your health, why wouldn't you get a second opinion on your wealth? So whether you're do-it-yourself or already working with someone, this is now your chance to go through this process we call the financial physical. Do you know what your investments are costing you? If you're still working, are you on track to have the type of retirement you've always envisioned? Or if you're already retired, do you know if you or your spouse are at risk of running out of money while trying to maintain your current lifestyle? I can assure you, I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. I repeat, this is not a sales meeting. In this initial meeting, we'll address issues of importance to you, provide an overall view of your situation, and give you some general advice on what needs to be completed. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. However, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting. So whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who's actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interests at all times. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, it is best suited for people who have saved at least $250,000. And as you probably are aware, I am a certified financial planner professional, and I believe the only one local here on the radio in Tucson, and the going hourly rate to me with the CFP, such as myself, can cost as much as $300 an hour. So this is a tremendous value and chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. Just as you want to reach a healthy life from a physical standpoint, you also want to reach and maintain great financial health. So our financial physical is just what the doctor ordered. We try our best to help everyone. However, our slots do fill up quickly. So I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting to the next 5 people that contact us right now. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
520-333-7601. That is 520-333-7601. You can call that number right now or send a text to that number, and you can get in touch with Silverman and Associates and come in soon and have a conversation in Tucson. 520-333-7601 is your number to call to make that happen. Mark Silverman at Silverman and Associates. He is a certified financial planner, professional, founder, managing member of Silverman and Associates. He's been doing this for a very long time, helping a lot of folks, and he's been here on the radio for a very long time too. A lot of radio listeners have finally decided to make that phone call, and they were glad they did. As a matter of fact, as so many people say once they come in, I wish I had talked to you sooner. And you may be in that category as well. Go ahead and call that number again. Call or text 520-333-7601. This is Saving with Silverman. I'm Ron Sutz along with Mark Silverman, and there's more coming up.
Did you know that Mark Silverman and his team offer a complimentary Get Acquainted meeting where you can learn more about what he can do for you? The goal is to determine whether you might be a good fit for each other. That's because the folks at Silverman and Associates are all about building long-standing relationships. They aren't offering you a slick sales pitch or a get-rich-quick approach to retirement. Instead, Mark offers a simpler approach to investing. It's based upon your goals, and his strategies are tailored to your needs. To find out more about his unique planning process, call or text 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601.
It's time to get to know Mark Silverman just a little bit better here on Saving with Silverman.
You're listening to Saving with Silverman. I'm Ron Stutz along with Mark Silverman of Silverman and Associates. And Mark, this is our Getting to Know You segment, so we all want to get to know a little bit more about you today. And if you had to live in a different state other than Arizona, if you had to live in a different state, what would it be?
Oh boy, that's a tough one. I like warm weather. I've been here my whole life, so born and raised. So, it'd be hard for me to go to some place that's cold. Mm-hmm. I would probably have to say maybe California, although, the way that their taxes and things are there, their state government, the way it's run, probably is not a good place to be. Yeah. It's worse than Arizona is. So that part kind of is discouraging. But as far as weather-wise, I'd probably have to say California.
I guess there are pros and cons for just about any state or any place you'd like to be. But the point is, you like being where you are, right?
I do. That's why I'm here. And it's, I like the warm weather, and we don't have a lot of these natural disasters that you hear all over the other places. It just gets hot.
There's something every other day, it seems.
Yeah. Exactly. So this is a good place to be, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, Tucson, a good place to be, and certainly Mark Silverman loves being in Tucson, and he would love to meet you as well, and we'll tell you how you can do that coming up in just a few minutes here. You're listening to Saving with Silverman. I'm Ron Stutz. We'll have more coming up.
Do you ever feel like you need Superman to help you with your financial crisis?
I've got you.
You've got me. Who's got you?
Well, we're not superheroes, but we can save the day when it comes to your finances. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman.
Welcome back to Saving with Silverman. Ron Stutz along with Mark Silverman. 520-333-7601 is your contact number. If you'd like to get in touch with Mark's office, that is 520-333-7601. Call that number, or you can text if you like. Saving with Silverman is all about making sure that you're planning and you're getting ready for retirement, and that you can be stress-free during retirement and not have to worry about outliving your money. 520-333-7601 is your number to call if you'd like to come in and have a conversation with Mark Silverman. We have lots of good conversations on this radio show, and let's talk about some important terms that folks need to know. I thought maybe we could explore some of these. For some people, these terms are not familiar at all. Others have heard of them but don't have a clear understanding of what they mean. And there may be some people out there who know exactly what we're talking about with every one of these. But what do we need to know, first of all, about in-service distribution? What does that mean, and what do folks need to know?
Sure, Ron. In-service distribution is the same thing as an in-service withdrawal. And basically what that means is what a lot of companies allow is if you're still working, you have, say, a 401k, a 403b, even a TSP, a thrift savings plan, 457 plan, you're able to take your vested portion and roll that into a self-directed IRA. Why that's important is because if you do that, you're able to do anything you want inside of that account. You're not limited to what your employer is the options that they're allowing you to put your money in. So a lot of companies allow this after age 59 and a half. So if you're still working after age 59 and a half, you can usually do an in-service distribution or in-service withdrawal, as we call it. There are companies that actually allow you to do it prior to 59 and a half. So it just depends on the company, but it's something that you should know, and it's an option that's out there. It's a non-taxable event. You're taking the money from your retirement account at the company and rolling it into a self-directed IRA. Again, the benefit is it's giving you more choices, more control, and more options to do what you need to do as far as managing those assets. So it's a great way, and we encourage a lot of clients to do that. You got to make sure you know where you're going to put it, of course, and that's something we can help with.
Well, Mark Silverman, what exactly is a Roth conversion, and what do folks need to know?
Sure. So what a Roth conversion is, it's a Roth IRA, and what you're doing is you're taking money from a traditional IRA and converting it into a Roth IRA. And so when you do that, there's no limit on how much you can do. You can do as much as you want to from the traditional to the Roth. What you want to keep in mind is whatever you do in that given year, all of that money's taxed as ordinary income. So where we do this a lot is in strategies where maybe somebody is slowed down or maybe they're not working as much, and we have years before they have to start taking what's known as required minimum distribution, which is RMDs. And so we'll take a certain amount, look what their taxable income is for the year, and see what the next tax bracket is. And if we have some room there, we might do a partial Roth conversion to get that money over to the Roth, where they're going to pay taxes on that, but it's getting it out of the traditional side. So it's going to bring down how much they're going to have to take at age 70 and a half.
Okay, what is an ETF, Mark Silverman?
That is an exchange traded fund, and we talk about these a lot. They're a type of fund very similar to a mutual fund, but in my opinion, much better than a mutual fund. And they're a newer version of a fund. They haven't been around as long as mutual funds, but I can tell you the fees are typically on the average, say, loaded mutual fund, you're probably looking at 80 to 90% less in fees. The other big benefit is they're a lot more tax efficient. There is a lot more transparency of what's in those. We use those a lot in our practice versus using mutual funds. And so if you are investing in mutual funds, I encourage you to look at ETFs. I think they're a better way of doing things. If you're in a 401k, unfortunately, you're probably going to be limited to mutual funds, but there's a lot, you can Google, there's a lot of articles that are out there that compare ETFs with mutual funds. And I think you'll see that ETFs, and again, in my opinion, is a much better way to go.
Mark, I want to throw some more terms at you in just a moment, but I wanted to tell everybody how to get in touch. That is 520-333-7601, 520-333-7601. Mark Silverman's planning process is called the Financial Physical, and just like you get a physical every now and then for your body, you need to get a physical for your financial situation as well. And I don't know if you've ever had an MRI. You have to crawl in this long cylindrical tube, and it takes a picture of the inside of your body. An MRI, it's sort of like a financial MRI as well, except you don't have to crawl into that very long, uncomfortable tube, and it's certainly not as loud. Mark Silverman, kind of a quiet guy. 520-333-7601 is your number to call, or you can send a text to that number and arrange a visit. One more term here, and this is one that comes up a lot: fiduciary.
That's used a lot, and there's a lot that's been out there. Department of Labor has made some changes, so a lot of advisors are having to change the way they do things. What I can tell you is this, because I've worked on both sides of the table, if you will. But I am not affiliated with any broker dealer. I am what's known as an RIA, which is a registered investment advisor, which means I have a fiduciary responsibility to my clients at all times. That being said, I'm also a CFP, a certified financial planner, so I have a fiduciary responsibility as there as well. The way that the laws have been is if you're working for a bank or broker dealer or wirehouse, insurance company, something along those lines, or insurance salesperson, you didn't have a fiduciary responsibility. What you had to follow is the much lower suitability standard. And there is a big difference. The way that the rule is now, a lot of these people that weren't operating as a fiduciary are now having to operate as a fiduciary in regards to retirement accounts only. So theoretically, if you have money that's not in a retirement account, they don't actually have to act as a fiduciary. They can go back to the suitability standard. I know it sounds confusing, and it really is, but you want to work with someone who's actually put your interests first and is required to. And I'm not saying that if you're working with somebody at a brokerage firm or a bank or something like that isn't, but I can tell you that they're not required to. So it's important, in my opinion, that you work with someone who is a fiduciary that's going to put your goals, your dreams, and your interests first.
I know that at Silverman & Associates, you've been working as a fiduciary all along, Mark, because that's what you wanted to do. And, there are other companies out there right now who are really scrambling, trying to change the way they do a lot of things. And, if you have to change a bunch of stuff in order to represent the best interests of your clients when it comes to retirement planning, then what does that say about what you've been doing all along up until this point?
Exactly. In fact, I have a client who was working with a pseudo advisor, or somebody that was selling some security stuff, mainly products as well as insurance annuities. And they came to me, and they had already bought some other stuff from this other person, and now they're working with me. But they had brought in a letter that this advisor recently sent them, and basically was saying that given these new changes, they're getting out of the investment industry. They're giving up their securities license because they don't want to comply with the fiduciary standard. And you're seeing a lot of companies doing that, which is pretty interesting. It's like you said, Ron, if I have to put my client's interests first, I don't want any part of this business. And it's unfortunate, but that's the fact, and that's how a lot of advisors are seeing things, especially if they're close to retirement or they don't want to deal with it anymore.
Yeah, if you've been working with somebody who's having to scramble a bit right now and change the way they do things, that ought to send up a red flag for you. How about risk aversion? What is that, and what do folks need to know about it?
Sure. Well, it just has to do with what's your comfort level. So risk is an interesting topic. We use an online tool when we analyze our clients' risk. And if somebody's married, we'll get, both spouses to complete the risk tolerance, because we really do a very good job understanding that. But, one, we want to understand what somebody's comfort level is, not just to upside, but to downside. How much are they willing to accept as a loss? And obviously, the more loss you're willing to accept, the more gain you're going to receive. But we want to find out what the right balance is. The other thing we want to do is look at somebody's financial plan and seeing where they are on track with their goals. And ideally, we want to make sure that their risk tolerance and their goals are on track, and those two work harmoniously together to help them achieve their goals. So that's really how there's two parts when we look at those things to make sure that those are in line. But there's no right or wrong when it comes to risk. It's how you feel. And so just because somebody's a certain age, or if they're retired or not retired, doesn't mean they have to be a certain risk. Again, everybody's in a different situation. But what I can tell you, generally speaking, as people get older, they become more conservative. And then once they get into retirement, they become even more conservative. And as they get older, they tend to become more conservative. Generally speaking, that's what happens. There's always room where somebody might feel differently, and that's fine. But that's generally what happens.
I know there are a lot of folks out there listening to the show today and thinking it's about time I go ahead and give Mark Silverman a call or send a text. What happens when they do that?
Sure. Ron, so just like you get a second opinion on your health, we talked about this before, why wouldn't you get a second opinion on your wealth? So whether you're do-it-yourself or already working with someone, this is now your chance to go through this process that we call the financial physical. Do you know what your investments are costing you? If you're still working, are you on track to have the type of retirement you've always envisioned? Or if you're already retired, do you know if you or your spouse are at risk of running out of money while trying to maintain your current lifestyle? I can assure you, I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. I repeat, this is not a sales meeting. In this initial meeting, we're going to address issues of importance to you, provide an overall view of your situation, and give general advice on what needs to be completed. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. However, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting. So whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who's actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interest at all times. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, It is best suited for people who have saved at least $250,000. And as you are aware, I am a certified financial planner professional, and the going hourly rate to meet with a CFP such as myself can cost as much as $300 an hour. So this is a tremendous value and chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. Just as you want to reach a healthy life from a physical standpoint, you also want to reach and maintain great financial health. So our financial physical is just what the doctor orders. We try to do our best to help everyone. However, our slots do fill up quickly, so I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting for the next 7 people that contact us right now. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
If you like to survive and thrive in retirement, then get a plan. Mark Silverman can help you with that. This show is called Saving with Silverman, and in a lot of ways, Mark can really save you. If you haven't planned well up until this point, then give him a call at 520-333-7601, or you can send a text to that number if you like, 520-333-7601. It's all about arranging a time, a very convenient time. You can come into the office in Tucson and have a visit with Mark Silverman, get to know him a little bit. He'll get to know you, and then, and only then, can he give you any kind of specific advice. Can't really get specific on the radio because there's no cookie-cutter solution for retirement. If you want to plan for your retirement, everybody's individual, so that's why it's necessary to come in. It's not a sales pitch. It's just kind of a getting-to-know-you segment. There's no obligation at all. So go ahead and call 520-333-7601. Mark Silverman is a certified financial planner, professional, the president of Silverman and Associates in Tucson. Wherever you are in southern Arizona, call or text 520-333-7601. This is Saving with Silverman. I'm Ron Stutz, along with Mark Silverman.
Picture this. Your financial statements have come in the mail. What's going through your head as you open them up? Maybe all that financial jargon is flustering. Maybe the numbers are confusing, or maybe those red arrows are leaving you in a funk. Don't base your future on a monthly letter. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman. Learn what true financial planning really looks like.
Welcome back to Saving with Silverman. This is Ron Stutz along with Mark Silverman. And as always, the number to call to get in touch with Mark is 520-333-7601. That is 520-333-7601. You can call or text. We'll give that number again just a few minutes here. But time for the request line. We have some great questions this week, Mark. First of all, with Randall in Vail. Randall says, I'm in my mid-50s. I don't have a lot saved for retirement at all, but I own my own business, and I'm having a huge year, best I've ever had, by far. I'll have some big profits that I can invest for retirement. Where do I begin?
Well, Randall, thanks for the question, and congratulations on having a great year. It really depends on the structure of your company. Is it just you, or do you have employees? Does it make sense to start a 401k? If you can't, there's some other options that you could put some money in. The idea is to put as much money pre-tax in as you possibly can to get yourself going on your retirement, depending on when you want to retire. So great question. It really depends, though, again, on the structure of your company and whether or not you have multiple employees, or if it's just you, or if you have a partner. And then that would determine what type of plan that we could set up for you, or that would be available to you, I should say, to start socking some money away for your own retirement. But great question.
Randall, yeah, thanks for the question, but best thing to do is to call and get a time when you can come in and have a talk face-to-face with Mark about these things. We have another question here from Beth in Marana. Beth says, my parents bought a whole life insurance policy for my daughter when she was born, and we've been paying for that policy ever since they passed away. Now, she's about to graduate from college. Should we keep paying in this policy or not? And she adds, this policy is not cheap.
Well, Beth, that's a great question. It just depends on what the purpose of that policy is. There's this money that she can use for her retirement. There's some things that we can do as far as maybe covering long-term care down the road for her. She's still young, so getting her insured, assuming there's no other things that we don't know about, she should have no problem. The nice thing with insurance is It's a lot cheaper now than it used to be because people are living longer. So a lot of the insurance companies have adopted the newest mortality tables, which means life insurance is cheaper. So you might be able to get either more coverage or the same coverage for less premium. It might make sense to do a policy review. So if that's something you want to do through us, just give us a call. We can walk you through that and help you there. Or, whoever you have the policy with, you can call them and they should be able to help you as well.
Got one more question for you today, Mark, and this one's a doozy. I'll tell you, this is really interesting. This is from Rebecca in the Foothills. Rebecca says, next year my daughter is moving back to the United States after 10 years in Africa. I'm thinking about moving to wherever they end up living here in the States. What do I need to consider before I pick up and move at the age of 67?
Sure, Rebecca, that's a great question. It really depends on where you move to. I'm familiar with some of the other states. I'm obviously most familiar with Arizona because that's where we are. But, you want to look at different situations, cost of living, if there's estate taxes, some are worse than others. There's lots of questions. So it really depends on where your daughter is thinking of moving to before you want to make that move. But if you call us and have an idea of where she may be considering, we can certainly give you some information. Like I said, I'm not an expert in all the states, but I can tell you more about Arizona. But depending on where she's planning on moving to, that's something you want to consider and certain things that you want to think about for your own retirement, how much you have saved and what you can, hopefully you can maintain the type of retirement that you're thinking about. And some states might be more expensive than others, or will be more expensive than others, I should say.
I know that there are folks out there right now like Randall and Beth and Rebecca, the ones who sent us the questions this week. There are other folks who have questions and would like to sit down with you, Mark. And I'm going to give that number in just a moment here so they can get in touch with you. But what do you have to offer those folks who come in and sit down and talk face to face?
Sure, Ron. Well, we've had some great questions and I'm happy to answer those as always. If anybody has any other questions, you can go to our website, which is savingwithsilverman.com, and go to the radio section and maybe you'll hear your question on the air. But here's my chance to ask you a question. And can you answer it honestly and objectively as possible? Aside from the happy hellos and how's the family, and aside from the occasional lunch or golf game, I get it. I'm as much friends with so many of my clients. They become true friends over the many years as well. But I think the question has to be asked, especially in light of the stakes. Is your current financial advisor truly adding value beyond a doubt? I repeat, is your current financial advisor truly adding value? It's a valid question, as a friendship or just relationship allows you not to be in a position to ask those critical questions. Are you talking about taxes? Are you talking about Social Security and income and diversification and risk and insurance and estate planning and healthcare? Are you having those annual reviews? But hopefully it's more frequently than that. Is there detailed follow-up? Is there accountability? If all of that is happening, congratulations, because you've got a great relationship, and send your financial advisor a thank you. But if you're not having that, if you're not feeling the value, if you're not having these in-depth conversations, then you owe it to yourself and really to your family to have a conversation with someone else. Because if you don't, you're the one that's going to suffer. You're the one that's going to pay the cost, and it'll cost you in more ways than you'll ever know. Let us prove to you how we can help your money go further in retirement. Let us show you with our financial physical. I believe you'll be surprised at what you'll learn, and this won't cost you anything. Give us a call or send us a text to 520-333-7601, 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601. Or check us out online at savingwithsilverman.com. That's savingwithsilverman.com. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
Make a smart choice right now to call 520-333-7601. That is 520-333-7601. Call or text if you prefer to do that. 520-333-7601. Mark Silverman, certified financial planner, professional, founder, and managing member of Silverman & Associates in Tucson. Wherever you are in Arizona, go ahead and make that phone call right now. Don't procrastinate. 520-333-7601. Mark, it's been fun being with you today, and I trust you're going to have an outstanding week.
Ron, always happy to be here. I hope everybody got some value from it, and I hope everybody enjoys the holidays. And again, please don't procrastinate.
Join us again next time for the next edition of Saving with Silverman.
Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC is a registered investment advisor. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities product, service, or investment strategy. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Be sure to first consult with a qualified advisor, tax professional, or attorney before implementing any strategy or recommendation discussed herein.